questions from the board. We have an opportunity for the public. The public is limited to 5 minutes, and that they must speak on the request and the variance, either a use variance or an area variance. So at this time, I will have the petition of Mark Holland read.
Petition of Mark Holland, 32 Lincoln Avenue, Jamestown, New York, for a use variance to allow for the placement of a shed for boat storage and repair on parcel 387.06-5-38 located at 44 9th Street and owned by Mark Holland in a CM zone. Section 300-0312A, permitted principal uses or structures. 1. Uses as permitted and regulated in C4 districts, provided that all non-residential uses have their primary orientation toward a major street or highway, and in no case shall such uses have their orientation solely on a side street. Requested variances for a non-residential use on a side street.
Thank you. Mr. Holland or representative, please come forward. You can have a seat, and then as we are required to ask your name and your address because we do use that for our recording. So if you can, please state your name and address, and then we are going to ask questions and have you answer them.
My name is Katie Stamp, 26 Palmer Street, Jamestown, New York.
Katie, can you tell us how you are associated with the petitioner?
Significant other.
Would you like to explain any further, any information about the request?
Well, we feel like it adds value. Like I said, when we purchased the property, it was literally a vacant lot that was full of garbage, debris. We've already spent $1,000 cleaning it all up, got it all leveled, everything taken out, debris, branches, garbage. I mean, there was old house stuff in there. It was just a very full of junk lot that we literally all totally cleaned up, leveled it out, laid stuff down. We just want to put the shed down, it, like I said, to store a boat, and then that way he has somewhere he can work on his boat in the winter time and, you know, clean up, get ready for the season and things like that. So we feel like it would add value to the area as, like I said, it was a vacant junk lot and we've cleaned it up and done a lot of work to it.
Are there questions from members of the board?
Is there pictures of the shed that you're going to be putting in there?
There should have been.
Sorry. All right.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Were you aware of the zoning requirements before you purchased the property?
Not before we purchased, no.
Have you talked to any of the neighbors on either side of the lot or across the street?
We do have, his brother lives across the street. He owns the lot that's right next door to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the neighbors' feelings about the plans?
They have not said anything. With our initial, what we were gonna do prior, they said stuff, but I mean, we've changed it since then. We have not heard anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What were you gonna do prior?
We were gonna do like cooking out of it, like do like little like sell like to-go meals and stuff like that was our previous idea, and then we changed it.
I see. And they don't have any, you haven't heard anything negative
No.
about this?
No, no.
We're familiar with the people who live in the neighborhood.
I assume your brother doesn't care.
No, they don't, the neighbors.
Yeah, so, and I mean, there's other people like in the area that know us that if that, like we've talked to people and stuff and let them know like what we were gonna do and things like that, and we haven't heard anything back, like negative, I guess.
Other questions?
Would those neighbors have been served with a notice or made aware of tonight's event?
Anyone within 100 feet of the property.
So if someone would have a problem with it, they could have come and voiced their concerns.
Yes.
Yeah, about 4 of them then called me and told me about the letter they got before I even got my notice. So yes, they all been notified about it.
I think the question came from another member of the board about a use variance and what that means.
one for the boat and then one to like, he's got like tackle boxes and stuff like that. So like one would just have the boat and the other would have like his stuff that he, you know, that goes on the boat and things like that.
I have a bunch of parts, and the shed itself, my boat is a 21 footer, so I can't put too much stuff next to that. I won't have room to walk around and do everything I have to do with it and store a whole bunch of boat parts and stuff that I'll store over the years. I'm in a lot of tournaments, so the winter time is the main time where we would go in there and try to be fixing on it, but it's really an all year round thing. I just be in a lot of tournaments on Chautauqua Lake.
Another criteria is the cost. I understand that you bought this property at auction and that you're now paying the taxes on it. Did you look at other properties that might fit the shed or a storage area that might be comparable to what you paid?
I mean, we bidded on different properties. This is the one that we won in the auction. Like I said, there was numerous that we bidded on that we were outbid on.
And end up paying overpriced for this property just to get it, paid $2,500 for it, where we started it was only $150.
Any other questions?
How long was the property, what was it? It was at a tax auction, right?
Yes.
How long has it been vacant, does anyone know?
It would be,
Do you know?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you might know,
I-
generally.
I used to be counsel for the county on this question, so it would be at least 3 years of unpaid taxes before it would go into the auction cycle.
Yeah, and it's just been, it became a dump over the years for trees, everything.
Brush, I mean, we'll just like dump garbage and stuff related to like the amount of stuff that we paid to have and loads that we had taken out of their garbage and shrub and like people cut down trees and like threw them like the big chunks over there and everything that we had to take care of and everything else.
One question for you, is your boat use commercial or is this a personal recreational?
Personal recreational thing.
Mr. Garcia's
It gives
trying
me,
to question.
No, that's fine.
Sorry.
it also gives me opportunity where I don't have to leave my boat on the street for taking a chance of it getting hit. And just, it was an opportunity.
Did you want to clarify something?
I did, I just wanted to speak from my perspective of what I've seen of this. I like the work that you've already done to the land. It is much better than if you bought it. That's awesome. I appreciate that. The conflict that it creates is a lot of our structural requirement, or not structural requirements, our requirements for a structure that would be usually a secondary structure are predicated upon the restraints of the primary structure, which is usually a residence in that district, right? So, for example, one conundrum that we'll have is your secondary structure, your sheds, can't be higher in height than your primary structure. Well, we don't have a primary structure to base that on, and you've got a 21-foot boat sitting on a trailer. I don't know how high that's going to be. Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions that it creates. So when we give you this variance, it's a permitted nonconformity that there's going to be a lot of work through that we have to figure out, because there's setbacks on the property, and then also setbacks of where a primary structure would be, and this could be in relation to it. I don't see any distinct, there's no harm to be done by putting the sheds there. I think there is a potential for, because there's two lots next to each other, maybe an infill idea. There's more infill potential because there's two lots sitting next to each other. The sheds on the property, I think, will probably be the only development that'll be there, likely, unless there was something to do with an infill project. But a lot of the where to set it and whatnot would be a little bit of a conflict as well. Just considering we're setting a precedence to do this in the neighborhood. This will not be the only time this subject is visited. So, just my thoughts.
If I may, Mr. Holland, the larger shed, the storage shed, if you will, will that have electricity to it? Will it be plumbed?
Well, that was gonna be my question after if I got approved for it or not. I was gonna say now what was my next steps for electricity, because I do plan on getting electricity. Because that's all I will need is lights there, or it's just really to work on both.
Generally, a secondary service would be pulled for something like that in the back, I would assume, and I would be honestly more of a BPU kind of question.
Yeah, so, 'cause I've asked people about that, but I guess my first step is being able to get the sheds. When I bought the sheds, we was told that, we was able to put them there without a permit because there wasn't no permanent structure there. So everything was, as new as we going along.
We have since also addressed heritage sheds and talked to them personally. About our zoning requirements, even for what is, a lot of people would consider a temporary shed, it is still a structure that has to adhere to our setbacks, and we capture the setbacks and make sure that they're adhered to by this permitting process. So it's not as much a permit for the structure, a temporary structure, as it is to make sure all of our other regulations are adhered to. And also, truly, the definition of a not temporary structure is one that if I show up and it's not within the boundaries where it needs to be setbacks, you can pick it up and move it at that point. That's not the kind of structure that we're looking at here. Maybe one of those Rubbermaid structures that you could get prefab, but not something the size that would house a boat, I would think. What kind of floor do you plan to have in these? Is it a raised floor shed, or do you plan to have a slab under them as well? How is that?
The things like where they go to level and
Oh,
bricks. Yeah.
They want to level and everything.
Okay, they're gonna level
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, when they put the sheds there, they're leveling it.
Okay.
So there's no like metal floor?
No.
It's
No.
just grade?
Yeah, that I plan on putting carpet on, maybe, yeah, but that's about it.
Also, I just wanted to bring up the issue with the sheds. This was, this didn't come up through Mark's project, but Heritage Shed had placed other sheds and were telling residents that they didn't need permits for that, so we did go to Heritage Sheds. I personally went there and talked to the salesperson about the fact that these sheds do need to be permitted, and, he shouldn't be telling residents that they don't need permits, because then they get placed without a permit, and then our code enforcement team has to chase down the shed issue when there are bigger fish to fry in terms of what our code enforcement officers need to be focused on. This isn't about your project specifically, but this is more about the shed issue in general. Mark was sold sheds under the pretext that he wouldn't need permitting for that, right? That's not Mark's fault, that's what he was told, but we worked from our office at DOD to try to address the issue with the seller so that we don't have this problem in the future.
Other questions? There is no primary structure on the property. That's part of the code as it stands now.
That's correct.
No one's going to be living in this shed, I assume.
No, absolutely not.
The issue with the use variance is that it goes with the property. So if you decide to sell that property, somebody will still have a use variance that they can put something on that property when there's no primary structure there.
What, let's say you sold it, right? And, I mean, what else could someone put there? It's not commercial, right? I mean,
It's in the CM district, and CM's kind of funny. I think it'll probably be redistricted here in an overhaul that'll be done soon. The CM district allows for commercial use as long as well as being in the CM district, you're on a main arterial road. So what is that? Washington Street.
Yeah.
If you face Washington Street and have road frontage on Washington in a CM, you can use it for business uses. If you're on a tributary, such as the 9th Street, that's not a use that's allowed within, and it's in the first paragraph of the
right, yeah, so if we were to approve it, basically we'd be saying that, because how it's, what he's, I left my paperwork in my office, but the issue is that based on non-residential uses have their primary orientation toward a major street or highway.
Yes.
So this would be a non-resident, so what we'd be saying
building wouldn't be qualified as a residence, so that would be a non-residential use of that.
Can we limit the use? You know,
I don't directly have experience with that. I can look into it for you, for sure.
Because ultimately, the code defines what we can or can't put there, so we can't arbitrarily dictate which part of the code we're gonna apply, right?
And then additionally, any limitations that I or Jason or you or anybody else, put on top of that. Within the code, we can say, okay, if you meet these, then maybe there's some leeway to be granted in an area, but to add stipulations to is a whole other thing, so I don't know how to limit that. And that's the bigger concern, right? Is that other properties along this could say, there's an existing variance for a non-residential use, I want
I want one too.
one, two, right, exactly.
Is there, I'm just curious how close to Washington Street is this property?
So,
I don't know how many, like, how close, how many, like, buildings.
I want to say there's like 3 houses.
Yeah, I think it's like three.
Like 3 houses and then our property.
Do I dare ask this question, like, what the rezoning, what are they planning to do in that area?
I could not tell you exactly, there's just some very strange attributes specifically in this of why you just wouldn't change that to the neighboring zone that fits it as a more residential than a commercial property. We have that in other areas, so we would probably just, my thought process would be the boundary runs, north to south. You would move it further west just to make the commercial aspect only on Washington and not have a CM that protrudes into what is, should be an R2, R1 kind of district. And just move that, where that boundary is over, not really change anything about either side, just where the boundary is. Residential district versus business.
Orientation question, just to check this, 908 Washington Street on the corner of 9th and Washington, is that the auto parts store they built a few years ago?
I'm not familiar enough with the city.
Is it Napa? Is it Napa on the corner?
Napa, I thought was a.
It's all parts of it.
This Clark Realty at 908 Washington is the Napa store, I believe.
I'm looking at this.
I believe you're correct, it's on the south side.
And they added to that store, maybe there's.
I'm one of those people that can drive the city by memory, but you tell me a street name and I'm lost. So, okay, thank you.
There is a shared driveway, correct? That's shared with the other property?
No.
No,
No.
is it right on your
It's
property?
right, yes.
Okay, so that's what you would be using to get the boat in
Yes.
and out, you're not gonna be cutting your curb.
No.
And can you answer this? There's a number of jump cars at the back, is that on your property?
No, that is my brother property, that's next to me, those are his demo cars.
I don't think they're there all the time, it's just like when he gets them ready for the demo, they work on them, and then they take them to do the demo, and
Okay,
that's
because
it.
they're there now.
Yeah, and they will be moved, but
Okay.
I have nothing to do with that.
Okay, I couldn't tell where the line was because
Yeah.
there's not any
Yeah,
markings
no,
right
it's
now.
not.
That detracts from the neighborhood, that's why I
Yes.
was concerned if there was an issue. And the problem with zoning, again, this is sandwiched in between 2 large commercial streets, but there are residential properties on there, other houses.
Yeah,
It all
it's
matters,
okay.
and
Yeah.
on it, it even said that they could email you how long it was at like 10 o'clock this morning, and if they didn't agree with it. So
Yeah.
all the neighbors already knew about it.
Yeah, the absence, I think, of people saying, I don't like this means they're okay with it.
Well, that's why we're looking for some documentation.
Yeah, not all the
There is
owners
none,
are
that's what, the
local.
absence of documentation means that everyone's okay with it. Because if they had a problem, they'd tell us. So I think we should assume they don't have a problem, right?
If they happen, read what they got.
You should, that's why you should read your mail.
Yeah.
The state of response would submit a letter or more common first this week. But I think to the chairwoman's point, not those letters that go out, they go to the property owner and maybe not necessarily the resident of the property. So if it's a rental and the owner's maybe out of town or out of state, they may not.
Any other questions? Seeing none from the board, there is an opportunity for the public to speak. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak, they have to state their name and address and go to the microphone. One more time, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak, they must go to the microphone and state their name and address. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section. And at this point, we will be looking for a motion on the use variance for the property at 44 West 9th Street to approve a use variance.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Panavienko. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. Any clarifying comments on the motion?
Can I make it conditional on getting,
We try, but I think you said it.
it's not, make any difference?
That's not a zoning or a code stipulation, so if that's a stipulation on your decision, I have no opposition.
Okay, so
So we're trying to put extra constraints or less constraints on something that there's code written on, specifically like where to place it, it should be, or anything like that, I would say. But as far as getting someone's, I don't know if you require that, but that's outside of my realm.
okay, but you don't think it really makes a difference? I was just trying to consider the city maybe covering our.
I think that if you specifically go asking the question again, you are more likely to find somebody that may be in opposition to it.
Yes, thank you.
Not because of any particular knowledge necessarily, but it could be the second time, or perhaps even more concerning the first time they're hearing about it.
Yeah.
But we did give the notice that we're
Yes,
required to
absolutely.
do. I
Absolutely.
think though, Mr., the comment was made about placement, and I think the placement is within what we agreed in terms of setback and side
It does fall
properties
within the
according to
setbacks.
what is shown here.
If there was a primary structure on there, then as long as it was within 10 feet of the back of that structure, then his placement does fit the rest of the setbacks that can be determined.
And the
without
5 foot on